discipline, your techniques?
The when it comes to my mastering my own self, I am quite clear that my biggest challenge is the way my mind works. Because I was brought up in an environment where emphasis was on what's wrong and do something about it. No? And I realized that when you focus too much on what's wrong, you either end up being very fearful or being very angry. I am the fearful variety. So my own practice right now has to do with learning means and ways in order to disengage from what Dr. Seligman calls negative self-talk. No? And the methods I use on a daily basis, this one is just quieting down, which simply means I focus on one thing, maybe my breath, maybe a thought, maybe something every day. No? And just focus on it. And when my mind wanders, I simply recognize that it has wandered and then just keep for 30 minutes every day, which to me, I think helps me develop the discipline of focus. That's why I'm not good at multitasking. Multitasking allows you to get many things done, which I call breadth. My interest is depth. Maybe a mastery of only a few things, but you're very good at it. And you're very deep in the practice. So that's one. No? The other one is practicing what I teach about tapping the creative side of you, no, of the mind, which always begins with focusing so that you relax your logical mind, relaxes the body, and opens you to the creative mind whose language is metaphoric. So when I deal with challenges in my own personal life or even in my work, part of what I do is when my logic cannot deal with it anymore, is I go into practices where I transform my concern into a metaphor and use methods I know for interpreting it to see how the metaphor actually speaks about the essence of a present reality and possible new ways of dealing with it. But it all begins with learning how to quiet down the mind and focus it enough so that rationality stops for a while and you are open to new possibilities, which can come to you in the form of metaphors. That's the regular practice I'm doing right now. In the meantime, I'm also reading all sorts of books, which I don't search out, by the way. I am called by the book. So I may be reading something and a title may be mentioned there and I would feel so strongly about, I need to read that as well. And I have been doing that for the last few months and I've just been led to one book to another, but all of them pointing out towards quieting the mind so that you may be open to new possibilities, all of them pointing out to paying attention to what is right and the possibilities as opposed to what is wrong and how I can resolve it, which I realize can never be entirely resolved because trying to do something about a problem just leads to other problems. The only nice thing about that is if you can find a way to earn money from that, it's never ending. But I'm not interested in that. I'm interested to find out, no, what is the mindset that allows you to look at what is right and how to use it to create more positive realities.
When you say you feel led to a book or called to a book, can you share how that feels like? Parang, nung kinento mo, parang hyperlink ba yun? And then you felt
because that's how the creative mind works. The creative mind sends a signal through the body. So for example, when I teach the students how to interpret, let's say, a dream, okay, The idea is, at the start, is to get others to do free association. So for example, I said, I dreamt about a wolf. So my group mates will free associate anything that comes to mind. They just say it. They don't interpret it. And wolf, dark, angry, blah, 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 blah. I'm listening to them. I'm hearing them rather. But I'm listening within. I'm waiting for my body to react to it. As soon as my body reacts to what is said, I take note of the reaction and what was said. Because that reaction is telling me that is the meaning of the metaphor for you.
So, physical reaction, your heart beats faster.
Yes, or suddenly I feel cold, my stomach turns perhaps, no? The hair, whatever little hair you have stands up, that kind of thing. You suddenly feel heavy, you suddenly feel light. It's a physical phenomenon. So how do you apply it in real life? So for example, when I go to a restaurant, I don't just sit anywhere. I quiet myself down and I allow the place to point out where I should sit. And in the literature, especially from those who have written from the occult, which means hidden from the past, they call that your power center. It's at that place where you are most powerful. And so you stay there, or you go to a place and your stomach starts to turn. Your intuition, your creative mind is telling you that you're not safe in that place. So you have the option of staying there or moving away immediately, no? Even when the rational mind cannot understand. Our education has taught us how to trust the logical mind, but the logical mind works slow, very slow. You have to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I conclude. But in many, many situations, especially when you are in danger, you do not have the luxury of time. The creative brain works the other way. It gives you the conclusion. It's up to you to figure out and find out where did that come from? Why is this a correct move? And this is the portion which is neglected in our training and our education, which I would want to find means and ways of developing among our people, but in a fun way. No? The late Gaston Ortigas, who was the first PhD graduate of Harvard in business management, calls his method systematic common sense, wherein he uses the logical mind to come up with a conclusion. But at the very last stage, he says, let go of your answer and listen to your body. If you feel comfortable with the answer, that's it. If there is some discomfort in your body, go back again and trace because you missed something somewhere. His last portion was intuition. And he says, you know the answer is correct because the logical arguments and the physical intuition just match. To me, that is a manifestation of whole brain thinking.
In Tagalog, how would this be called? Kutob?
Kutob.
Pakiramdam?
Kutob.
Kutob.
Kutob is what I know the Tagalog language is. And we're supposed to be very good at that as a race.
Pakiramdaman.
Oh. Oo. Pero the schools taught us to doubt it. So even that one, so given the lessons I learned from Father Bulatao, so when I was with that Ibaloy tribe and that I heard about the intestines, I know it's not about the intestines. The intestines there just quieted down the mind of that whoever, manghuhula or ano, and there were visions. Once you quiet the rational mind, your creative mind just opens you to different possibilities. And I believe that there is a greater intelligence there that just brings in. But many times it's a feeling, it is a metaphor. Now it's up to you to interpret it. And I think the healers, the manghuhula, have developed their own system for interpreting metaphoric, symbolic images. And because of practice, are able to hit the mark more often than not.
From